What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gameball with your host, Matson Montilla. Today, join the show, we have Cincinnati Bengal wide receiver and former Miami of Ohio wide receiver, Jack Sorenson. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Well, I thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. But my first question for you is, a couple of weeks ago, like 3, 4 weeks ago, the Bengals OTAs, minicamp, everything kind of wrapped up. You're in a little bit of a break before training camp. But what were OTAs like in rookie minicamp and just, going from now college to practicing for the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's just like an opportunity for rookies to try to learn one, like a whole new language. Like maybe how they call in their plays, how they run their offense, different concepts, new defenses and how to read them. And then also just like learn the team culture, learn how they run things, learn how their locker room flows and how they do their meetings. It's really, for me, it was a big learning process and an opportunity to meet all the other teammates.
Mhm. So would you say that just NFL, like football in terms of the schedule and how it all works, is it a lot different or comparable to college football and what you did at Miami of Ohio?
Yeah, I think it's different. It's different in the sense of like, you know, you're getting paid to do it now. So the accountability is on you. I think in college, a lot of it is like, if you're on scholarship, they've fronted that amount of money for you already. And so they're trying to squeeze everything they can out of you. And if in the NFL, if they have to try to squeeze you at all to get anything out of you, they're just going to cut you. Because at that point you're a liability to them. So I think that's the biggest difference is like you are totally accountable for being on time to places, for knowing your playbook, for knowing how they want you to run routes, for having an understanding of the defense. The coaching is great and it's still there, but the accountability is placed on you if you make a mistake once, not to make it again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the NFL, it's like a business, it's almost like you want to be an asset rather than just, like you said, a liability for a team. But with the playbook, you obviously have to OTAs is kind of a walkthrough of the plays and just the idea of it. But how has learning the playbook been for you?
It's been good. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a big jump from college to the NFL. Obviously, just like the amount you have to comprehend. It's been a lot of fun though, because as a receiver, like if you see a coverage and you have the opportunity to kind of like check yourself out of that, you just feel like there's more opportunity for you as a receiver to put yourself in advantageous positions. So I think it's great. It is a little bit more comprehending, but once you figure all that out and how to do that quickly, it really gives you a lot more freedom at the receiver position.
Definitely. And so coming in, there's obviously you're meeting all the guys, specifically the rookies, but you're working out with the wide receivers and practice nonstop. But have you been able to kind of just form any like relationships and helped even like with some of the guys and that's even helped you study the playbook and just become a better receiver?
Yeah. So, I mean, the main group that I've been hanging out with obviously is the rookie receivers. So Kwame, Kendrick, and Javon. So us four have really been hanging around and just, pushing each other through OTAs, just try to understand the playbook better, understand each other's positions, and be as versatile as possible. But in these 5 weeks we've had off leading up to training camp, I've been fortunate enough to actually one of the receivers, Mike Thomas, we're training at the same place. So he's been great, just about going out to the field with me, running through routes, really helping me understand how the Bengals want things to be ran and look from receiver to receiver. So that's been a huge help for me. And then also like, the other guys during training camp or during OTAs were always more than willing to like, answer any question that I had and really wanted to see us succeed. I think that's the great thing about the Bengals organization is nobody is insecure about their spot, which makes it great and a great opportunity to learn from guys that have had a lot of success.
Mhm. Well, that's great to hear that about Mike Thomas because, he is obviously a veteran receiver and has kind of been there for a little while. So that's cool that you're able to practice with him. But, again, I know you said you hung out with the rookies and just me being, asking you the questions I have to ask. I mean, just like being around, Jamar and Tyler and T, just at the camps at OTAs, like you said, what was that kind of like? Was it just cool being around these receivers that kind of proven to be some of the best to ever do it right
Yeah.
now?
I mean, I think it's, like that was a big reason that, through the whole process of talking with my agent and stuff, we wanted to be in Cincinnati was just the, the pot of knowledge that is in the Bengals wide receiver room. And it's like a mix of amazing success at a really young age. And then you have these veterans and guys that have had success and had really long, great careers like Tyler Boyd and Mike Thomas and Trent Irwin and Trent Taylor and these other guys like that. So it's been awesome, because of that match, you can ask some older veteran guys of like, how did you guys get the longevity that you had in the league? And you can have these awesome, very in-depth, great conversations about that. And then you can also go and talk to Jamar, and you can talk to T, and you can talk to other guys that have had success in a short amount of time, just about, kind of how they did it, and how they attacked it as a rookie, and the best ways that I can, walk around the locker room and attack training camp. So it's been an awesome, just wealth, pool of knowledge for me to dip into.
Definitely. And so a story I heard about when I was trying to do some research, it's actually pretty cool. It's nothing to worry about.
All right, good.
So when you were a kid, I want to say third grade, you wrote a letter to yourself about what your dream was and what you wanted to do when you grew up. And you received it about 20 years later, right before the draft. And I think we know what I'm talking about. So what was that moment like? And can you kind of explain what did you write and everything in it?
Yeah, it was an awesome activity. I think it was like one of my math classes or something, but it was just an activity that our teacher had all of us do. And we wrote out, where we wanted to be in 20 years and what we believed we'd be doing and where we believed our life would be. And in that I wrote, like playing professional football and all that stuff. And I think at that time I thought I was going to be quarterback and all that. So, the position might've changed, but the dream didn't. And I think that was one of the most fulfilling things for me to see when I read that again was just like, there's not many people that can say they had a dream in third grade and they're still chasing it. And so that was really awesome. That was just a little bit of more of a motivation for me to even keep pushing a little bit harder. So yeah, it was really cool. And that was a cool little thing that I had totally forgotten about. So when I got that letter, it was a pretty cool thing to read.
So what would it mean to you to make the final roster cut or make practice squad at the end of this whole journey you're going through with this summer?
Yeah, I mean, it'd mean the world, I don't think that for me, that's the end of my dream. It definitely isn't for me. I have dreams to do great things and to help teams win and to win Super Bowls and to do a lot as a receiver in the league. So I don't just think it stops there, but for me, it would be a huge stepping stone towards some of my other dreams and some of the other things I want to achieve as an NFL athlete.
Mm-hmm. So as a kid, you grew up in Cold Deer, Illinois. That's about 40 minutes out from Chicago. But, your family and yourself, big Green Bay fans, Packers fans. So how did that kind of how was that just being a kid and, liking the team that everyone hates where you live?
Yeah, well, honestly, growing up, it was probably better to be, at least when I grew up, it was probably better to be a Packers fan than a Bears fan. It was always more fun because I can probably count on one hand how many times the Bears had beat the Packers when I was growing up. So it was always fun wearing my Packers jersey into school and in middle school, and nobody could really rip on me because at the time the Packers were always better than the Bears. So it was fun, but my whole family, extended family, is from Green Bay. My parents grew up in Green Bay. So as I always say, it was kind of like room and board. We had to be Green Bay Packers fans. And my uncle or my second uncle, my dad's cousin, is the coach for the Brewers. So there's just a lot of ties into Wisconsin, and that's just kind of what we did growing up, was cheered for the Packers and the Brewers and the Bucks and all the Wisconsin teams.
Well, there you have it. I mean, I guess you're right. The Packers they're always just beating up on the Bears. The Bears never have a chance. So it is good to be rooting for the better team as a kid.
Yeah.
But
well, I will say it's going to be fun when the Bengals get to beat the Packers. So yeah. I'm even more excited about that.
Yeah. So now you're a Bengals lifer, right?
I'm a Cincinnati guy now. Yeah, I'm a Cincinnati guy.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you go to Miami of Ohio and then get signed by the Bengals. It's just all comes full circle for you. But in high school, there's a lot of things that you're going on with sports, and I guess one of the biggest things that kind of stuck out to me was that you played quarterback your entire high school career except for the year that you were recruited, because junior year, that's when recruitment is, and you played wide receiver. But did you want to play quarterback over wide receiver? Do you think things would have been different if you played quarterback junior year? Just talk me through that entire situation.
Yeah, I think growing up, when you're really young, they just take the kid that can throw it the farthest and they put him at QB. And so when I was younger, I had a pretty good arm. I could throw it pretty far. And so I was just put there, and that was kind of just where I wrote it out for a long time. And then junior year, we had a quarterback ahead of me named Willie Bourbon, who had done some awesome stuff at Stevenson, and I wasn't going to get the opportunity to play ahead of. So just talking to coaches, they thought it'd be an awesome opportunity for me to move to receiver, and I was totally for it. And I ended up having a great year, and that was kind of the year that you get recruited in football as your junior year. So, and once I started getting recruited for receiver, and I realized how much I really liked it, and how, just how different it was than quarterback, and I really appreciated and liked the differences, and I guess maybe the perspective from that side of the field instead of having people chase you and try to tackle you and all that stuff while you have the ball. So it was fun for me. And once the recruiting process started, I never really tried to switch it back to quarterback.
I mean, do you think things would have been different if you did play quarterback that year?
Yeah. I think things would have been different. I would love to say I'd still be in the same position talking to you. But truth of the matter is, like, now that I understand how much quarterbacks have to do at the NFL level and even at the college level, there's a whole new respect, for the position. And, I think that I could have done it, but, I guess we'll never know. So, but I'm definitely happy with my decision to stay at receiver for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely worked out for you. And, focusing again on that 1 year you played, you were all state as a wide receiver, which is crazy to see that you did that in 1 year. So another what if in a way. Do you think that if you played wide receiver your entire high school career, you might have gone to have a different type of career path?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think, that was a big thing through the recruiting process, was just how raw I was at the position, and how inexperienced I was. And I still think so. I still think that kids these days are like, they're specializing in a position at such a young age, and starting like position specific training when they're like 6, 7, 12, whatever the age is. And like, I didn't get my first true reps at it. I had that junior year, but I didn't really start getting coached in it until college. So I would like to think, there's still so much more that I can learn at the position, and there's so much more potential for me. Once I can start, picking the brains of these guys, players and coaches that have been around the league for a while and have seen, the transitions of guys from college into the NFL, and the ways to be successful.
Mm-hmm. So another thing you did in high school is you played lacrosse, and obviously you're pretty good at it. You had the offer from Boston University, decided to, again, pursue football. But do you think lacrosse in any way maybe helped you in football, and specifically at the wide receiver position?
I think so. I mean, I think that's true with any sport. I think there's so much crossover between certain sports. And that's why I always think it's great when people are multi-sport athletes. I think it just helps in the transitions well. And especially in lacrosse, I mean, it's so much conditioning, and at the receiver position, like, a lot of times it comes down to, who might be better conditioned, especially if you're in a fast paced up tempo offense, or in like a fourth quarter, 2-minute drive or something like that. So I think there's a lot of conditioning aspects that I carried away from lacrosse. There's a lot of dodging and one-on-one aspects to it, and then understanding the spacing on the field and where the shooting lanes are. It kind of goes hand in hand with trying to find zones and defenses and areas that you can, make plays in, while still going one-on-one with whoever's in that zone, or if it's man coverage. So I think there is a lot of crossover. Obviously, the game is a whole different game, but there is some crossover that I've taken away for sure.
Definitely. When you decide to, I guess, decommit from Boston University, what year was that again? Was it your right? Was it
that would have been my junior year.
Junior
yeah,
year.
So I was committed from my freshman to junior year.
Okay, so did you decide to decommit because you realized you had the chance to play football?
Yeah, and Ryan Pulley, I don't know, I'm not sure if he still coaches at Boston. Ryan Pulley was the coach at Boston when I was recruited there, and I was very upfront with him. Like, my dream was to play football. The recruiting process happened so early in lacrosse, so unfortunately, but I had to make a decision with lacrosse very early before football even starts recruiting. So I was very straightforward with him, and when my first opportunity came, which was Miami of Ohio, to play football, I had that conversation with him, and he was probably one of my biggest supporters to make the move. So, I don't know if off chance that Ryan Pulley will ever listen to this, but if he does, I appreciate the way he handled that situation.
Yeah, maybe he will. I'll make that happen for you. But then no, that's really interesting to hear that you're upfront with it. And he didn't really blink at it and let you have the offer still until you decommit it. But before we move on to just your career at Miami of Ohio, obviously you're a phenomenal wide receiver there. I want to talk about, I guess, again, another thing about this growing up in your area. And I've read about it, so I could be mistaken. Um, but I guess something you said that like was uh, not necessarily a problem, but something that as a younger kid, it was difficult was your family was a little bit wealthy growing up. And I guess some people put you in situations that to try and bring you down because they didn't think that you deserve to succeed.
I think it's weird because, there's a stereotype in football that, everybody, you come from rags to riches, that whole thing. And, at some point growing up, I was somewhat ashamed of, where I had come from because I didn't fit the bit. I already didn't fit the bit as a receiver. I'm shorter, skinnier. I'm not the fastest guy. So I didn't fit whatever the stereotype was for receiver. And then I had that attached to my name as well. But, I think the thing I realize is, I'm super proud of where my parents came from, and what they were able to, the childhood and the life that they were able to give me. But sports is the ultimate equalizer. So, and I think anybody that's played it long enough and has played it into the level that, I'm attempting to play right now, understands the coaches don't look at, your upbringing and be like, oh, he grew up wealthy, we're not going to take him, or he didn't grow up wealthy, we're not going to take him. They understand, who you are as a person. Family matters, because that's your support staff, but they don't look at your bank account. They don't look at those type of things because at the end of the day, it's the value added that you bring to the locker room and as a player on the field. And at some point, I had to get over that, and I did, and now I'm grateful for the opportunities my parents were able to give me and the life they were able to give me. And but anybody that's played at this level knows, like, it's all everybody grinds to get there. So I've had my own grind, and I am the only person that has to really respect that. So
Definitely. Well, do you think that perception of you maybe put a chip on your shoulder to just want to like, outwork everyone?
I think so. That might be a little bit of the reason. I think more than that, I've had, I mean, I could go on and on of the number of people, but that's not really important right now of who said, I don't fit the bit, or I don't, I'll never make it because of this or this. And, time and time again, I think I've proved people wrong. And now I think what's great is I've kind of transitioned out of that because, once you prove one person wrong, where's the motivation, after that? So I think I found a newfound motivation of I've had a dream since I've been in third grade to make this thing happen, and to go further than just making the NFL. So, I think now my motivation is to prove myself wrong and to prove my own dreams wrong, and to go farther than, even I thought I could, and beat my own expectations.
Definitely. Well, that's a great mindset to have. And you brought that in with you to Miami of Ohio. But when you first got there, you ended up redshirting, which totally normal thing. Everyone does it. But the interesting thing was there was a lot of quarterback injuries on the depth chart. So when you redshirted, you went the quarterback position. So what was that whole situation like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was scary at first because, obviously I'm going there. I'm excited to play one position. And then the last day of fall camp, I get told as we're walking off the field, I'm going to have to play quarterback. And at that point, it was Billy Ball, who would have been 2 years older than me. And then the incoming freshman in my class, Noah Wazensky, who's the QB. And then I was third string. And I hadn't taken any reps at quarterback since I stopped playing in high school. And so I really was still trying to learn the offense, and it was kind of, just learning through a fire hose at that point of, I started going to the QB meetings and, trying to, see the field as a quarterback and not as a receiver. But, and it was really tough, and it was probably the most stressful year of my life. Just as a football player, just being thrown into that position. And there was actually one point versus Akron where we had Billy and Noah go down, where I was supposed to go in. But our coaches didn't want to burn my red shirt and stuff like that. So we ended up throwing in a wildcat package. So there was a chance that I could have gone in. But in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, and got those extra years on the back end. But I think it was one of the best things that could have happened to me, though. I understood the game as from a quarterback level, and that helped me with timing. It helped me with understanding how to run routes, where the holes are, and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, bring that up. Being able to learn the entire playbook from the quarterback's eyes. Did that help you grow as a wide receiver even more than maybe even being in the receiver room?
yeah, first I think as a quarterback, you're a leader of the team, whether you want to be or not. And it gave me some of those opportunities to lead at a pretty young age, whether that was in the weight room, the locker room, and whatnot. And so just transitioning back into the receiver room, I think I had, a little bit of credibility to speak up and to say certain things, and to be a role model at a younger age, which was fun, but it was also, a kind of a trial and error thing as well, because you're young and you haven't been through the fire and the flames yet. So but it was great. And I think, a lot of my time in the quarterback room really helped when I transitioned back to receiver, just understanding what the quarterback's looking for in routes and in specific plays.
Definitely. So, I mean, like you said, it helps you understand the game better from a mental and just understanding of the plays, that set of things. But did, I guess, taking another year off from wide receiver and then going back into the receiver room, did that hinder you in any way in terms of just the route running and the actual, playing the receiver position?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did. Any time away from something is time lost in that area. So, yeah, I don't know how I could have developed in that year, and like I said, I guess we'll never know. But I think the amount of knowledge that I gained in football IQ and the understanding of the whole game has helped me throughout my career, maybe more than what I could have learned on releases or on footwork at the top of a route or mid route hand contact and on different stuff like that. So I think it was more beneficial though.
Definitely. Well, after taking this first couple of years to kind of adjust and understand the receiver position, you were thrown to the fire after James Gardner got hurt as the wide receiver position. You had to take a lot of his targets. But that 2018 year, going in and I guess proving yourself in a sense early on, did that help you? How was that year? Was it growing pains involved?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of growing pains, behind the behind the scenes growing pains are the things that people don't see. And luckily I was able to go out there and do pretty well game to game. But, just the transition of understanding how to attack a game week from Monday, let's just say you play on Saturday, from Monday to Saturday, and what each day entails, from going first down one day and first and second down one day to third down to third and long and short and medium the next day to fourth down to red zone, and just really learning how to be a student of the game. I think that was the hardest part, because when you're not playing, you only really have to memorize and learn certain things that I know I'm going to go in for this play. When you play the whole game and you're a main targeted guy, you have to know everything, and you have to understand okay, if they put me in the boundary, this is the coverages that they run. This is how this defense runs it. If I'm put at the slot, if I'm put to the field, if I'm put in at running back in an empty package, these are the matchups I'm going to get. And it was just being okay with being very uncomfortable that year, and failing a lot. I failed a lot, and I think people didn't really see that, which is great. But it was one of the better, I guess it was the year I grew the most for sure, at the receiver position.
Did you have your first catch that year too? Was that the first time you actually really got playing time?
Yeah. So yeah, that my first catch was versus that in that Marshall game. And it actually went for a touchdown too. So I got pretty lucky on that one.
Well, I heard you gave the ball away, which no celebration or anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't know what to do. I was so surprised, oh my God, I just scored. The next thing I know is a whole series had already gone by, and then I was back out on the field. I was oh my gosh.
Well, I'm sure that's what happens to a lot of guys. I mean, that's surreal though. Scoring, your first catch is a touchdown. Who would think that?
It was fun.
Yeah. So you played in a lot of great games and a lot of exciting games over the years, but there's 3 games at Miami of Ohio that I guess stuck out to me. But one of them was the game against Akron, where you had 4 touchdowns, and I believe that's or at least tied a record or even set the record for most touchdowns by receiver at Miami. But what was that game like? How were you able to get 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, I think behind any individual great performance, there's a crazy amazing support staff. And that game we had went in and we had game planned them really, really well. And we understood in certain situations we could capitalize on certain routes. And, we saw those situations. Brett did an awesome job, like checking me into plays that were going to be great for us. And then the other receivers ran the routes to open up the holes, and the O-line did what they needed to do to protect Brett. And, then I was able to kind of do what I was able to do. And so, I mean, it was an awesome game for me, and I had great individual stats, but it's really just like kind of a representation of, the whole week of preparation and everybody else doing their jobs consistently throughout the game.
And then the other two games that were exciting, and unfortunately, I think they both ended in losses, which isn't great. But one being the 283-yard game against Ohio, and then the other one, I don't know if this is, necessarily one that you'll agree with. It was a good one, but the double overtime game against Army, where ended up coming up short at the goal line. But those two games, exciting. You obviously got the 283, which is crazy against Ohio, and then playing Army. That's always a fun game, just the whole atmosphere of it. But what were those two games like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the Ohio game was a great learning experience for our team. I think at the time, I can't remember what their record was, but I don't know, maybe they were like 2-6 or something like that. Like they didn't have a great record. And as the older veteran guys, like you're trying to tell everybody, like, in the MAC, it's any given Tuesday or any given Wednesday, whenever that game was. Like everybody in the MAC is talent wise very similar, and the games are won by like a point margin of 2 or 3 points. So every game is really close. And if you look at Ohio's losses, they were really, really close games. So we knew they weren't bad, but I think unfortunately it took us a little while longer for the whole entire team to kind of realize, like, oh shoot, they're here to play, and they got some guys and they can do some good stuff. So we just came out late and we didn't start playing until the second half, but it was a fun game, and that is always a great rivalry game too.
Mm-hmm. So what is Maction like? Bringing that up, what is it all like playing on just a random, like you said, Tuesday or Wednesday?
It's fun because that you get like as prime time as you're going to get in the Maction. You're the only game on, and I think I saw somewhere that, like, it's, I think, like the second most betted on conference or something in the NCAA. So like there's a lot of people that are pretty invested in the MAC, which is cool.
Yeah.
But like it is an absolute toll, and I think for anybody that's just a student, they understand, like, how big of a grind it is just to get through, like, being a student. And so then you go and play a game, and you're game planning the whole entire week. You go play a game at 6 or 7, let's just say it's like out in Buffalo. You got a 12-hour car ride back. You get back at 5 or 6 in the morning, then got to go to your class at 8:30, and maybe you have a test. So it's just like it's a heck of a grind. But I think you learn a lot of time management skills. You learn how to communicate with professors and different people. So there's a bunch of really valuable skills, but it's a grind. It is a grind.
Oh, I bet it is. I mean, like you said, weekdays, and then next thing you know, you have to go to class and just, you can't even celebrate necessarily after a win, because the next day you have to get up and, do the actual school thing. But was it weird, like game planning on like not off days, but, the day you play can change week to week. So was it kind of weird game planning and not having a set schedule?
In the beginning, yeah. But, I played 6 years there. So, towards the end, it was just you kind of got used to it. But I mean, you really got to give up, your kind of like your life for that season. You don't really have a life outside of football or class. So, because sometimes your Saturdays are spent at practice and game planning, and your Sundays are also spent doing that. And while other people have Sunday off and they're able to go do stuff. And so it just depends. I mean, week to week, like you said, we can be on Tuesday one week and then Saturday on another. So it was really week to week, but I got pretty used to it by the last couple of years. So
yeah, I mean, definitely, you can just tell by the numbers. I mean, your last year, 7 of your last 8 games, you put up 100 yards plus. So it's easy to tell that you could definitely work it all out. But when you came to Miami, they weren't doing too hot. They weren't necessarily a great program. They had 12 loss season a couple of years before, then 9-10 losses. Like they weren't doing well. And you and the guys you came in with restored that entire program, brought them a MAC championship. And that's what they want out of you and out of the team, is just to be able to reset it all and rebuild that culture. So was that an important thing for you when you came there, to just do a culture shock?
Yeah, that was a big thing. That was a big selling point for Chuck whenever we came in, was just like, the opportunity that we had in front of us. And also like we understood the Miami tradition and the Red Hawk way that had been there for so long. Like you look back and you look how historic Miami's been with the cradle of coaches, and I, I believe they're like one of the most winningest programs in NCAA, and they are in the MAC. And so it was just a tradition, and we had an opportunity to kind of restore that tradition like you just said. And when I had gone down for the official visit and I met a bunch of the guys, and I realized that these are guys that I would want to, wherever I ended up, I'd want these guys to be there with me. It made the decision all more easy. And I wasn't the only one that went out there and changed that program. I was surrounded by, I don't know, 20 other freshmen that I came in with that were amazing men, amazing leaders, football players. Some of them contributed a lot on the field. Other people contributed a crazy amount in the locker room. And so it was just a great group of 20 guys that came in and were able to kind of change the culture around and restore the tradition.
Definitely. Well, with all that being said, what meant more to you, a MAC championship that you won with them or your state championship with your high school?
I don't know. I think they're both they're both amazing accomplishments. They're just different, high school level, like, it's nobody knows if it's going to be their last times playing football, and like you're a little immature, you're still trying to figure out life, and you're just really there for like the boys, and it's like I don't even know how to explain. Anybody that played high school football probably understands what I'm trying to say. But it was a cool thing, and especially like we brought the first state title to Stevenson. So that was a really cool experience. But it's just different, and then we went to, obviously Miami, we won it there. And once again, just around like a great group of guys. But yeah, the experiences were different. It's just, the battles were different. The ups and downs were different, but both of them were extremely meaningful in their own different ways.
And so now talking about a player, one of your teammates, Mac Hippenhammer, spoke to him a little bit. And I want to start off with an easy question, but how did like him and you and even Devin Dorsey in there, how did you guys kind of redefine that wide receiver position group at Miami and again, do a little culture shock to it all?
Yeah. So I think, that goes to, a lot more than just like me, Mac, and Devin. I had a great receiver coach while I was there, Israel Wufork, another awesome teammate of mine, Jalen Walker, Chris Cavaleris. There's so many guys I could go through. And honestly, like, I think it's a blessing in disguise when I really think about like the group of guys that I was surrounded with. And it made my job as like the leader of that room so much easier, because nobody really fought in the opposite direction of where we wanted to go. Everybody was kind of wanting to get on that train and be the best that they could as an individual. And then also like, be the best that they could to try to help the team. So, yeah, but I mean, like being surrounded by Mac and Jalen and Devin and Batiste and Cavaleris and all these guys like made my job as a leader super, super easy. So it was great.
Did you guys have any like pregame rituals?
I think we did. I'm trying to remember. I mean, me and Mac always went out and we threw around a little bit, and like we had this routine. Me and certain other people had handshakes and whatnot, but I tried to stay away from routines because like I'm somewhat superstitious. So like I don't want to get crazy superstitious into things that like I can't continue to repeat. So I tried not to have too many traditions that I couldn't repeat now that I'm in the NFL and stuff. So but yeah, I mean there was a couple. And that the one with Mac, I don't know if Mac told you that one, but yeah, just throwing around, that was probably the main one that I had.
He also said, I mean, you guys are pretty tight. I guess a lot of you guys talk about your goals outside of football and relationship advice. So
Oh yeah, those are pregame or pre-practice stretching and all that stuff. Post-practice stretching, those are where the great conversations really happen.
yeah, that's good. That's good. So I mean, safe to say that you guys have a pretty good relationship with one another. But I guess Matt couldn't necessarily. I don't know if he was on Miami. I don't know if he was on Penn State at the time or was with Miami when this happened. But I do know that you probably wish that you spoke to him before you went on this blind date that ended up where you ended up meeting your girlfriend. Because I heard and I read, she even said this quote, I thought he was really nice, but he was visibly nervous and I thought he was going to pass out. So what was that whole
Oh
thing like?
man. Yeah, I mean, like, that whole thing. So obviously, like my girlfriend, we've been together for like 3.5 years or almost 3.5 years now. So She's been a super special person, like probably my biggest supporter throughout these past couple of years we've been together. But yeah, we met on a blind date, something that I really didn't want to go on, and she actually didn't want to go on either. We went more to support our friends, and we were the only relationship that worked out of that blind date group date or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I was nervous as heck. I walked into that room, or she walked into that room, and I was like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. Oh yeah, I was terrified. It probably would have been nice to have Mac there, maybe just to talk me through some stuff, but I guess it's working out. 3.5 years is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, definitely is. I mean, and the fact that you're a water boy, I mean, that brings it all together.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, that part of the story. That part of the story is great.
Mhm. Why'd you decide to tell her that? Just didn't
I
want to.
don't know. I just, and I don't know. I was just like, there's no need for me to say like, hey, I'm the starting receiver and I do this and I do that. So I just was kind of like, let's just play it off easy and like, let's not focus on football. Like, let's just focus on getting to know each other. And I wanted her to know me as Jack, the person first before Jack, the football player. And I thought that she would act like she knew I was joking, but she actually didn't. And that was like one of the best parts. And it's continued to be one of the best parts is that, she loves me, not just as Jack, the football player, but she loves me first as Jack, and could care less if I have the best game or the worst game. She loves me the same, whenever I come off the field. So, but yeah, that was a pretty funny part for me to find out like a year and a half later that she actually thought I was a water boy. I love that.
Yeah, I can't believe it took her that long. That is pretty crazy. But something the two of you do together is a passion project. And it seems really cool. It's a nonprofit to help other nonprofits out. But what kind of inspired you to want to do that together and just help out other nonprofits?
Yeah, I think Paige has an incredible heart for helping people. She wants to eventually go into some type of social work, and she has a real heart for just giving her time to people that might need it. Yeah, so I think like just she had that passion already, and I had a platform that I might be able to elevate certain things with, and and I have a heart for helping in different ways that I can too, and we just saw an opportunity to create something that we felt that could benefit people around the Ohio area, and then hopefully as it gets bigger outside of Ohio into Illinois and Midwest, then hopefully it'd be cool if we could take it national. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of just how it started. We saw an opportunity and we took it, and we're kind of learning as we go, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. And it's interesting too, because, when I was reading up on stuff, you mentioned that I guess your great grandmother was involved with helping people that were in prison get jobs. So that's really cool that you had that, the whole family circle of it all. So that's really,
no, that's a really cool story too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, Paige is the absolute heart of the passion project. She's the one that gives it life and everything. So if credit's due, it's definitely to her.
Definitely. And, I have, I guess, a couple more questions to ask you before I let you go. But the first one being is you have, how many siblings do you have? 5?
Yeah, I got 5 siblings.
So that's pretty crazy to hear. But what was it like growing up with just, 5 siblings, and even now? I mean, what's that like?
I mean, it's the dynamics definitely changed, now that we're not all in the same house and under the same roof, but it was crazy. Both my parents my dad played basketball at Harvard. My mom was an ultra marathon runner, had trained for Ironmans, did marathons, all that. So my parents are crazy competitive. And I think we all got that in our own unique ways. But, when we were all under one household, under one roof, it just came out as, crazy amounts of energy in anything that we did. And whether it was watching like Power Rangers movies and then trying to like reenact all the scenes and fighting over who gets to be what color Power Ranger and all that stuff, to just now we're pushing each other and more serious life goals. But the transition has definitely been amazing. A lot of my siblings are really good athletes, and my other siblings that aren't doing athletics, they're doing insane things at really young ages for the companies that they work for, and just at some point football ends. So I really look up to that side of the family too, that has been able to go out and kind of create their own name in the corporate world.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I mean, the fact that you and your 5 other siblings, obviously your parents, were all kind of very successful putting it all together. That's what you strive for. That's really cool to hear. But do you think that do you think you're one of the most talented siblings in the family?
I might get some heat for saying yes, but I mean, I guess I might plead the fifth and just let people make that decision for themselves. But I mean, maybe let's just look at where everybody is right now, and then we can make decisions for ourselves.
Well, I was just wondering because I talked to Andrew Homer and he said that you're
Oh my
the least
gosh.
talented in the family. I mean, look, I heard
I think my brother has the most talents, plural. He can do the most amount of things.
is this
But
sorry, is this the brother that's like certified to be a clown or something like
yeah, like he has all the clown certifications. He's
Uh-huh.
like an engineer at Harvard, plays volleyball. So he's extremely well-rounded, can play the piano and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think as it goes, I think if my sister were to ask me to go and step into her area of expertise, like she would kill me in it, and vice versa. So I think we're all like really good in our areas that we focus in.
Yeah,
So
that's good. I mean, as Andrew put it though, you're a renaissance man because he said that your quote, the dude is multi-talented. He's a renaissance man, can backflip on a wakeboard, great at pool darts, and is a beast at golf. So do you think those are all
wow.
true facts?
I wonder who paid him off to say that. I mean, he's never been that nice to me in my life.
I mean, that's what you're the renaissance man. You can do it all. You can do
Wow,
it
I'm gonna
all.
have to give him a text after this and just say who paid him. I want to know what price it was.
You probably took the phone from him and
I know,
sent a
right?
message over.
Oh, we don't have to say that.
But Jack, pretty interesting conversation we just had. But nonetheless, you had an excellent football career at Miami of Ohio and looking to do the same at with the Bengals. To kind of wrap it up though, with training camp approaching, with the preseason coming up, how excited are you to be able to go and go in the first preseason game even and play against the Cardinals eventually, or get into one of those games and play NFL football?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, this has been a dream forever for me. So, like, it's just one step closer to getting an opportunity to do that. So I'm stoked. I'm super excited. I've trained super, super hard these past 5 weeks from OTAs to whenever we report for training camp on the 23rd. And I think whatever happens, it happens. It's out of my control. I truly believe that there's a plan for me, and I'm dedicated and willing to follow that plan. But I've done everything that I can do, and I've trained really hard to put myself in the position that I am right now. And it just comes down to whether I capitalize on the opportunities in the preseason games. And, I believe I will. So we'll see.
Definitely. Well, Jack, I appreciate you coming on. Again, this is Jack Sorenson, former Miami of Ohio wide receiver and current Bengals wide receiver. Jack, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man.